Excellency Mr. Zhao Tao, Vice Chairman of China International Development Cooperation Agency, and Wang, President of the China Center for China and Globalization, ambassadors present, my colleagues from the United Nations family, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps 2023, we are looking at the most convergent crises at a multiple level across the world. We are still not out of a health crisis. We are in the midst of an existentialist crisis with the climate. We've got 25 ongoing conflicts across the world. We have rising inequalities. And then we are confronted with the war in Ukraine, with the food, fuel, and financial crisis. Now, all these interlocking crises are essentially what they've done is put the Sustainable Development Goals completely off track. And that is why the Secretary General of the United Nations has called for member states to come together on the 18th and 19th of September to see what we could do to rescue the SDGs. And rescuing the SDGs requires first and foremost political will. With the absence of political will, try as much as may want with all the policies in place, all the best intentions in place, it's not going to happen. And therefore the Secretary General is challenging global leadership across the world to say, what is it that we could do to rescue the SDGs? So let me quote from what he has said. He said that we are at a critical juncture in whether we achieve the ambition of the 2030 agenda, and we need the SDG Summit to send a clear message from world leaders to a strong political declaration to deliver transformative actions and increased national commitments to the sustainable development. China is not immune from the shocks of these interlocking crises. A health pandemic in one part of the world can easily envelop the entire. A sandstorm erupting from Mongolia can easily envelop all of Beijing. We've seen weather phenomena which we've never experienced in China, in the US, in Europe. Simultaneously, we've seen floods across Greece, Libya, Turkey. Unprecedented weather events which are actually baffling even the most climate skeptics around the world. And quite clearly, what this will mean is the resolve of the Committee of Nations, the Committee of the People, we the people, as the Charter says. Because we are at a point of impossible transition as a people. Weather phenomena that we've seen recently in Beijing, with the floods that came our way, which has not been experienced. They're already talking about close to 10,000 people who may have died, most recently in Libya. So a combination of effects is basically derailing human development and our entire humanity. Yet, as the UN family, we work and serve in a country where we were established. Our presence was established here in 1979. And we have been part of this country's transformation. At one time, in 1979, when China's per capita GDP was a mere $180, the United Nations was a net aid provider to the country, bringing in ideas, bringing in financing, bringing in, methods, instruments on how to transform their economy with the economy having opened up. In a span of 4 decades, that's just one generation. They did lift over 70 million people out of poverty. So on a lot of matters, on issues around food security, with 9% of the world's arable land, they feed 1/5 of the world's population. Africa has 60% of the world's arable land, and yet in Africa we still have to import $300 billion worth of food. important lessons that can be shared. And this is where we are committed as the United Nations family to share the best practices, knowledge, ideas that can go from China into the global south, and particularly in Africa, where the future is. By 2050, 2.5 billion people, of which 890 million will be below the age of 40. It's where the future of consumption and production is going to happen. So it is wise, not just for China, but for the entire world, to look carefully at Africa and invest in Africa now. In the space of public health, in the space of education, in the space of gender, multiple areas that China has made great progress. A statistic, if it's of interest to you, there are 240 women that are billionaires in the world. 120 are Chinese. In the space of the data, technology, innovation, they have gone into cutting-edge spheres of AI and quantum computing and semiconductors and fintech, biotech. It's transformation. But there's still work to be done. China still has many miles left to complete the SDGs. It still has to deal with issues of inequality, as Henry pointed out. Nearly 350 million migrant workers, urban to rural inequalities. And this is where the United Nations family has a cooperation framework with China to make sure that around the three pillars around which the cooperation framework is based, people and prosperity, the planet, and in our partnership, we will do everything possible to make sure that China comes out as a best-in-class exemplar of the achievement of the SDGs, and at the same time use our knowledge to build more South-South cooperation, more South-North-South collaboration. Because ultimately it is about resurrecting the spirit of multilateralism, and it is that multilateralism that will allow us, our collective humanity will allow us not only to overcome the current challenges that we confront, but also in the race towards achieving not just the sustainable development goals, but a race to achieving more solidarity, more networked community of nations, and ultimately more compassion. Thank you.